Well, it's been 1 week since the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs on federal charges, and living behind bars is the exact opposite of what he has been used to. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is a place that's been described as hell on earth.
He's really, really paranoid. He's really, really scared. He doesn't know what to think. He doesn't know who to trust or what to believe.
The unthinkable has happened to Diddy. He has become a victim of what he did to so many in jail.
The point where they feel he's going to be suicidal to himself, harmful to himself. Once they put him on suicide watch, you had a right to nothing. No socks, no drawers, no T-shirt, no blanket, no sheets. You asshole naked in a cell as a crazy man.
It's not at all surprising considering Diddy was always going to have a target on his back in jail. Suge Knight even had this to say about what life would be like in there.
At least they're going to come hot, they're going to come sealed, and you got to be the one to open them. That's very important.
What about people trying to hurt him?
Go to jail. I mean, one of the things is this. I don't care who you are. Prison and jail is a negative environment. If somebody can do something to them and get a name for themselves, they're going to actually do it. Or they can do whatever they feel they got to do to prove themselves. But we also got to learn. We got to learn from our mistakes. Everything don't have to be a mistake. You got to better yourself. But we all know what we sign up for in life. So if I sign up to be a football player, I knew I'm going to get hit and I'm going to hurt some motherfuckers too. I signed up to be in the music business and the entertainment business. If you fight for right and being a black man, there's certain things you got to look at for the challenges. If they can't take the money from you, they take you from the money by putting you in prison. That's a fact. In Puffy's situation, he should go and get his time out the way. Not no life sentence. If he can get a lesser time, he should jump on it because he had a great run.
Diddy was returned to federal custody on Tuesday afternoon after a judge denied his request for bail as his sex abuse case moves toward trial. Diddy has entered a not guilty plea to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation for prostitution. For now, he will remain in pre-trial detention at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn. The MDC, housing around 1,600 inmates, mostly pre-trial detainees, has been New York City's main federal detention center since 2021. This change came after the Bureau of Prisons shut down Manhattan's Metropolitan Correctional Center, where Jeffrey Epstein's death occurred due to the facility's poor conditions. Unfortunately, MDC has a similar reputation. It's notorious for chronic understaffing, frequent lockdowns, violence, delayed medical care, and multiple incidents of suicide and death. Diddy's legal team, in their motion for bail earlier on Tuesday, highlighted these harsh conditions. They pointed out that several courts in this district have recognized that the conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center are not fit for pretrial detention. They further mentioned the troubling incidents at the MDC, writing, "Just earlier this summer, an inmate was murdered. At least 4 inmates have died by suicide there in the past 3 years. For example, in June, Uriel White, an inmate awaiting trial on gun charges for over 2 years, was stabbed to death at the MDC. A month later, another inmate, Edwin Cordero, died after being injured in a jail fight. It's very violent," said an inmate named Eli in an interview with Spectrum News NY one after White's death. There's stabbings at least a couple times a week." Cordero's lawyer described the situation as senseless and completely preventable, calling the MDC hell on earth, as reported by the New York Times. Diddy's attorneys, Mark Agnifilo and Tenny R. Geragos, cited several legal cases where MDC's conditions were described as dreadful, inhuman, and an ongoing tragedy. In fact, many people are now speculating that since Diddy is in so much trouble, he may well go ahead and expose other high-profile people to get himself a better deal.
I think Diddy knows enough that it's a very delicate balance, that maybe investigators will want to know these other names and greatly reduce his exposure to criminality, to time, versus what people would do to keep him quiet.
Number one, I've been knowing him a long time, and we was friends. We're not enemies, but we were friends. He's not a dummy, so he's smart enough to work his magic. On top of that, this man right here He's been involved with the FBI for most of his career. It's not like he don't have no moves. So I don't think nobody should just count him out. I don't think he gonna lay down and just crawl in the corner and die. He probably going through a lot of shit right now because he probably going through a lot of withdrawals for the drugs. But the industry got him on drugs. And see, they do these things to take control. They're not doing nothing.
And that wouldn't be too hard for Diddy because he already has a lot of blackmail material on celebrities.
Why haven't anybody came out defending Diddy? All these celebrity friends he have and nobody came out.
They brand. It's all about the money. They saw what he did to Cassie with the kicking, the punching. They saw what they did to Cassie. They know that nobody in America liked that. So now these people are represented by a brand. Whether it's something about the music, clothing, movies, they're not gonna come out and speak on nothing that has anything to do with them. And they praying that they not on the tape doing crazy stuff, being oiled up in the whole 9 yards. They praying. So until the feds say, hey, yo, listen here. We got you on, hey, buddy, we got you on this tape. And girl looked like she was pretty young. We're not gonna show it, but we need you to come and testify against Brother Love, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, you know, Sean Combs. That's when they're gonna start talking. And they're not gonna be talking in his favor. When the feds come to them and show them what they got on tape, because if he had 250 tapes all over, 250 cameras all over the house, somebody got caught stealing a cookie out the cookie jar. It could be your favorite pastor. It could be your favorite politician.
Gene Deal went on to explain just how incriminating these tapes could be.
When you don't know somebody's taping you, when you don't know that somebody is videoing you in some kind of form or fashion, you got that alcohol, you got the drugs in you, they're a little loose, bruh. They let down all their inhibitions. The music is pumping. He said it himself. He got it so hot in there that you got to take your clothes off. He said that himself, bruh. So a lot of them, like what was what he said? I think a lot of them was being swallowed. Have you ever been swallowed? They tell off on themselves all the time, man. You just gotta listen.
But why do you think Diddy had all them hidden cameras?
Bruh, when you that powerful, you didn't get that powerful without having 1 or 2 or maybe 3 ups on somebody. Diddy always been the type of individual that want to have ups on the next person no matter what they was doing.
But who are the celebrities that could be under the microscope if Diddy started singing like a canary?
I'm gonna tell you who I believe is on the tapes. I believe Barack Obama got a tape.
Yeah, he playing hide the hot dog.
I know Jennifer Lopez has multiple tapes.
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
I know Beyonce got a tape. I definitely know they probably recycled some old Stevie J and Eve stuff. I know Drake got a tape. I know Rihanna got a tape. I know Chris Brown's on one of them tapes. I know Trey Songz has been like a supporting actor in many freak-off films. Definitely Usher. I think what would shock people are the politicians and the royals that were on that tape. And I'm still trying to figure out when Harry and Meghan are going to be honest about their freak-off tape.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody really wants to talk about the fact that the royal family had many times at Diddy party, especially that weirdo.
Usher and Diddy first met in 1994 when music producer L.A. Reid, who had signed Usher to his label, sent the then 15-year-old to live with Diddy at his home in Scarsdale, New York, while working on his debut album. In a 2004 interview with Rolling Stone, Usher revealed that Diddy introduced me to a totally different set of things, sex specifically. He explained, "There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy." However, over the years, Usher has remained mostly quiet about his time living with Diddy and has rarely discussed their relationship. In a 2016 interview with Howard Stern, Usher addressed the experience but offered few details. When Stern asked if it was filled with chicks and orgying nonstop, Usher replied, "Not really." He described the time as pretty wild.
Moved
to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn some...
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle,
right?
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. It was,
So nobody
it was
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
Recently, Usher's posts on social media platform X disappeared, sparking rumors that it could be connected to Diddy. Usher later clarified in a post that his account was hacked, writing, "Damn, y'all ran with it," and his previous posts were restored. Usher has not publicly commented on Diddy's arrest or the sexual assault allegations against him. Justin Bieber also had connections to Diddy early in his career. Discovered at 13 by Scooter Braun, Bieber signed to a joint label created by Braun and Usher. In a 2009 video Bieber uploaded to YouTube, Diddy announced that Bieber was spending 48 hours with Diddy, adding, "Where we're hanging out and what we're doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream." In the video, Diddy clarifies that he didn't have legal guardianship over Bieber, unlike the situation with Usher. When asked what he wanted to do, Bieber replied, "Let's go get some girls." To which Diddy responded, "A man after my own heart. That's what I'm talking about." In a 2010 video, Diddy teaches Bieber how to swag walk and jokes about how Bieber had started to change, saying, "You starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out how we used to hang out." While the two were seen together less frequently over the years, they appeared to maintain a good relationship. In 2014, Khloe Kardashian mentioned attending a party where half the people were butt naked, and Diddy, along with Bieber, was reportedly there. Bieber was 19 or 20 at the time.
So who was with you this weekend? A bunch of my friends. Diddy, Quincy, Justin Bieber, so far French so good. Montana. Do you even know half the people you're naming? No. She didn't go to bed. I haven't been to bed yet. You haven't? I want to be Clay when I grow up, Court. I got on a plane at 5:30 a.m. Go this party. I think half the people there were butt naked.
Diddy also attended Bieber's 22nd birthday party in 2016, gifting him a Bad Boy Records jacket. Bieber has occasionally shared throwback photos of the two, including one in 2021 where he captioned a picture, "My bro at Diddy Throwback." The two finally collaborated musically in 2023 when Bieber was featured on Diddy's song, Moments, which Bieber called a wild full circle moment. Bieber has previously spoken about the difficulties of growing up in the music industry, though he hasn't elaborated on specific experiences. In a 2020 interview, he expressed feeling protective of fellow artist Billie Eilish, mentioning that he struggled with people in the industry who claimed to love him but would turn your back on you in a second. While he has not publicly commented on Diddy's recent legal troubles, a viral song on TikTok supposedly featuring Bieber singing about losing himself at a Diddy party was recently doing rounds on the internet. Meek Mill, who has reportedly partied with Diddy multiple times, including a 2014 Grammys party hosted by Mill that was broken up by the police, has repeatedly denied rumors of having a sexual relationship with Diddy.
Hey, what's up, King Son? Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, Daddy. You putting in that work. Proud of you. I love you. Yeah.
Mill and Diddy worked together several times between 2012 and 2015, with Mill featuring on Diddy's track I Want the Love, and Diddy appearing on Mill's song Cold Hearted. There was even this leaked audio of them. The rumors gained traction on social media following a lawsuit filed by producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones, which alleged that Diddy had a sexual relationship with a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. Since Mill is from Philadelphia and dated Minaj from 2014 to 2016, speculation pointed at him. In February, shortly after the lawsuit, Mill took to social media to deny the rumors, though he didn't directly mention Diddy. He also offered to pay $100,000 to an investigative team to uncover how his name was being linked to Diddy, hinting at a possible smear campaign. While Mill hasn't commented directly on the recent allegations against Diddy, he tweeted in April, "I don't believe no Diddy story," and added, "Once they lied about me." Diddy and Jay-Z, on the other hand, have been close collaborators and friends for decades. Jay-Z appeared on Diddy's debut album No Way Out in 1997, contributing to the track Young G's, and performed as a guest during Diddy's No Way Out tour. As two of the wealthiest rappers in history, Jay-Z's net worth is estimated at $2.5 billion, and Diddy's was once as high as $740 million. The two have worked together beyond music. They jointly donated $1 million to Hurricane Katrina relief, and even talked about future business ventures. In 2015, Diddy said, "Me and Jay, we've talked about it. We said we want to pick the best one." Over the years, Diddy and Jay-Z have been photographed together on many occasions, including at the 2020 Pre-Grammy Awards Gala and at DJ Khaled's 2022 Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. However, a years-old video of Diddy playfully slapping Jay-Z's butt on stage has resurfaced on social media, drawing renewed attention.
Yeah, how I feel, man. I ain't one of the. I guess the money should have changed them. I guess I should have forgot where I came from. Wait till I get my money right. Suicide door. This my life, homie. You decide. They say I told with so much emphasis. 50 had to come back out and make my show hot. I so appreciate it. To Rockefeller show, motherfucking city, nigga. I love you.
Jay-Z has stayed silent on Diddy's recent arrest and the sexual assault allegations, which has caught the eye of Diddy's longtime rival. 50 Cent has mocked both Diddy and Jay-Z on Instagram, especially after the FBI raided Diddy's homes. In March, 50 Cent posted a meme of Jay-Z's face on a milk carton labeled missing and wrote, "Anybody seen Jay LOL?" In May, he joked, "Jay in hibernation, he ain't coming outside till this shit with Puff blow over. No brunch, no lunch, no dinner. LOL." Many have speculated this may be because of the role he plays in Diddy's criminal organization.
D-I-D-D-Y. D-E-V-I-L. The devil. He's the devil. And if he ain't the devil, he is the damn short shepherd for him. He wants to be just like him. Let's get Diddy indicted and let's get Jay-Z up next.
Do you believe?
I promise you, whatever trafficking the diddler is being looked at for, Sean Carter aided and abetted or was directly involved. It's about to get real tense, and there's a lot of girls and boys who are still trapped inside the machine, working, paying their flesh debts. There's still a lot of them, and they know things that people ain't gonna be comfortable with them knowing. What people really need to be worried about is getting all of the witnesses to come forward before they disappear.
And now that we know Diddy is probably going to snitch on his pals, which celebrities do you think will find themselves in the meat grinder next? Let us know in the comments below.
Well, it's been 1 week since the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs on federal charges, and living behind bars is the exact opposite of what he has been used to. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is a place that's been described as hell on earth.
MDC is so bad, federal judges have questioned the harsh conditions for those here awaiting trial. So bad I was here 2 years ago during a cold spell, reporting on detainees with no heat, pounding on windows for help. There was even a congressional inquiry, but take the word of a former inmate I spoke with who goes by Esco.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
It's been a whirlwind week for Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul who has been synonymous with luxury and extravagance for decades. Now, instead of mingling with celebrities and throwing opulent parties, Diddy finds himself in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, facing a starkly different reality. Arrested on federal charges including sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, forced labor, and transportation for prostitution, Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all accusations. Despite offering a hefty $50 million bail package, which his legal team proposed would be co-signed by his family and involve stringent travel restrictions and a GPS monitor, he was denied bail twice.
There's some breaking news to tell you about on the sex trafficking and racketeering federal charges against Sean Diddy Combs. A second judge within the hour has denied his plea to be released on bail. Combs is accused of abusing women for years, and he's going to stay in jail, apparently, after this ruling. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles live at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with the breaking news. Darla.
Bill, Diddy's attorneys went before a different judge today in a different courtroom, hoping for a different ruling and hoping that Diddy would be able to leave this courtroom today, this courthouse today, on a $50 million bond. But that did not work out as planned after federal prosecutors tipped the hand on their case and provided more details. The judge, again, for a second time, said no. For a second straight day inside of a federal courthouse, prosecutors and defense attorneys for Sean Diddy Combs spending hours going back and forth about releasing him on bail. Today's argument centering on two issues: risk of flight and witness tampering. Federal prosecutors telling the court victims and witnesses have universally expressed their extreme fear of the 54-year-old hip-hop icon. One woman describing her reaction to the civil suit filed by Cassie Ventura.
The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is no Ritz-Carlton. Often described as hell on earth, the facility has been criticized for its harsh conditions. Reports from former inmates and legal experts paint a grim picture: overcrowding, rampant violence, inadequate food, and a general lack of basic amenities. This is a far cry from the luxurious lifestyle Diddy was accustomed to.
Disgraced music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, once known for his lavish lifestyle and living large in his multi-million-dollar mansions, has a new home as he awaits trial in his federal sex trafficking case. Last week, the Bad Boy Founder's defense team unsuccessfully fought to keep the music producer out of federal jail after his arrest. Now his new digs once house other high-profile inmates, including R. Kelly, Fetty Wap, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Diddy is currently housed at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, a stark difference from the glitz, glamour, and wealth in Hollywood and Star Island in Miami Beach, Florida. But MDC Brooklyn has been described as hell on earth, with horrifying conditions. The facility, which now houses Diddy, opened in the early 90s and is the only federal jail in New York City after the Bureau of Prisons closed its Metropolitan Correctional Center in 2021 after many issues came to light in the wake of Jeffrey Epstein's suicide just 2 years earlier.
Placed in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, and on suicide watch due to his high-profile status, Diddy is now experiencing the stark reality of prison life. The SHU is designed for the protection of inmates who are considered at risk due to their celebrity status or other factors. In Diddy's case, this means extreme isolation, no contact with other inmates, no VIP treatment, just the bare minimum necessities.
Diddy's attorney argued in legal paperwork MDC Brooklyn is not fit for pretrial detention, citing detainee deaths and other concerns. His attorney Mark Agnifilo asked the judge for Diddy to be moved to a New Jersey jail, but the judge says it's up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide. And while Diddy is being housed in a special housing unit, also known as the SHU, officials say he's not receiving any special treatment, but are closely monitoring him as he's been placed on procedural suicide watch in case the disgraced producer attempts to harm himself. But his attorney says his client is not at all suicidal, saying the mogul is strong, healthy, confident, and focused on his defense.
Life in the SHU is grueling. Inmates are confined to their cells for 23 hours a day. day, allowed out only for brief periods of recreation and meals. The food is notoriously bad. Former inmates describe it as barely edible. This could explain reports that Diddy isn't eating, possibly fearing his food could be tampered with or poisoned.
His attorneys are saying that the conditions there at MDC are horrific, horrendous. They're not appropriate to stay in. What is your experience there? Is it really as horrendous as they're saying?
I've had many clients who were housed in MDC Brooklyn, and I can tell you the reports that the facility is something that is less than desirable is 100% accurate. There's been a lot of reports of it being below standard in terms of prison standards. And of course, a prison isn't meant to be a comfortable place, but of course, they have to provide the basic human rights to their inmates. And MDC Brooklyn has been plagued with overcrowding, with violence, with poor food, with poor cleanliness. And P. Diddy, who is in a protective custody unit, is still experiencing all the bad things that MDC Brooklyn has to offer, and it doesn't have a lot to offer in terms of comfort or things that an inmate would be looking for.
The isolation is perhaps the hardest part. High-profile inmates like Diddy are kept under constant surveillance, wearing tear-away paper garments and rubber shower shoes to prevent any self-harm. There's no pillow, just a bed and a blanket. Electronic devices are banned, though he might be allowed a radio for short periods. This is a far cry from the mansions and private jets he once enjoyed.
And certainly, Diddy would be facing potential dangers because a prison, by virtue of it being a prison, is not necessarily a good place to be. It's not a safe place to be, but particularly this facility is known to have a lot of problems in the last few years.
What would it look like for Diddy in this protective care unit, I guess? He's separated from general population, but what is his day-to-day like?
So Diddy's life in the SHU, in that specialized housing unit where he's been placed for his own safety, is going to be something that's rather routine and mundane. He's not going to be necessarily even enjoying some of the things that general population, aka Gen Pop, enjoys, because he's being in a special segregated unit for his own safety, which means he's going to be under more constant observation by guards. His comings and goings in and out of his cell for recreational time and for meal time are going to be more scrutinized. So although the SHU unit is technically for the prison inmate's safety, and of course Diddy being a high-profile inmate requires that, it also means more restrictions for that inmate.
Being incarcerated in MDC Brooklyn presents significant challenges for Diddy's legal defense. Communication with his attorneys is restricted to specific times, and all interactions are closely monitored. There's no special treatment for celebrity defendants, meaning Diddy has to meet his lawyers in the same communal areas as other inmates. Federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton notes that this lack of privacy and the general conditions make it much harder to prepare a defense.
Diddy has pleaded not guilty to these charges, so of course we're expecting him to bring a strong defense with his attorneys, his team. Obviously they're going to be preparing, but does it add a layer of challenge, the fact that Diddy is behind bars? What does it look like for attorneys hoping to meet with him? Would they have their own rooms? Would they talk over those phone things we see in movies? What would it really look like?
So when you have a client who is behind bars, you are meeting with them on legal visits, and you are talking to them on a secured line, which is an attorney or legal call where it's not being recorded, and it's afforded that privilege, that attorney-client privilege, that privacy there. But it does present hurdles when having a client behind bars, because you're sort of really reliant on A, the prison schedule, B, the prison calls. You can't call your client, they're calling you. So even if you have something that you need to talk to your client about urgently, you got to wait until you get that prison call from prison, or you're making that visit yourself to jail to have a legal visit.
Moreover, the lack of reliable Wi-Fi in MDC Brooklyn is a significant hindrance. Diddy's case involves massive amounts of digital evidence, hundreds of terabytes, according to prosecutors. Without proper access to this data, building a robust defense becomes even more challenging.
Abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. Exactly what you had just said. Some of these actions allegedly, they go back to 2009.
Well, and a lot, which hurts him, because there's a lot of witnesses, a lot of history, a lot of communications that probably the government has already accessed to support the allegations. But again, a lot of this also came out from lawsuits that were filed by women against P. Diddy. Right. And those lawsuits laid out a lot of this, what's in the indictment against P. Diddy. And these are people that are going to serve as witnesses when this goes to trial.
Okay, so let's just say you are his lawyer.
Right.
What's his defense?
His defense here is that the government has no business going into the private affairs of what happens in someone's bedroom, that these acts were entirely consensual, that these witnesses, really a lot of them wanted to be in P. Diddy's circle of celebrity. They, what you have here are some of these people that have sued him engaged in nothing more than a money grab.
The charges against Diddy are severe and paint a disturbing picture of his alleged activities. The federal indictment accuses him of running a criminal enterprise that engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. It describes a pattern of abuse, particularly against women, involving verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual violence.
That used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice. Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse.
A particularly shocking aspect of the indictment is the allegation of freak-offs, elaborate sex parties that Diddy allegedly organized and recorded without the participants' consent. Federal authorities found 1,000 bottles of lube and baby oil during raids on his properties, underscoring the scope of these activities. Diddy's legal journey is just beginning, and it's expected to be long and arduous. His next court date is scheduled for October 9th, but the complexities of his case suggest that it could be years before a final resolution is reached. In the meantime, he remains in MDC Brooklyn, grappling with the harsh realities of prison life. Criminal defense attorney Imran Ansari, who has represented other high-profile defendants like Harvey Weinstein and 50 Cent, emphasizes the psychological impact of such a dramatic lifestyle change. Going from mansions and red carpets to a cramped cell can be incredibly disorienting and stressful, adding another layer of difficulty to an already challenging situation.
Hey, Sylvia. Hey, Terrence. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's just get right to it. How's Diddy reacting to everything that's going on right now? What have you guys heard?
Well, his attorney says he's in good spirits, but let's be honest here. Diddy's life is on the line. I mean, you were talking about incredibly serious federal charges, one of them being sex trafficking that could quite literally carry a life sentence in prison. So, again, while his attorney says Diddy is happy to be in this position because it's going to afford him the opportunity to, they say, to clear his name, he is sitting in a jail cell right now. He could be sitting in a jail cell for the foreseeable future. And like we just said, could be facing decades or more in prison if ultimately convicted. The attorney says that he's an imperfect person like we all are, but that he's not a criminal, that he's not a violent person, and that he will prove his innocence ultimately in this courtroom.
This is all over social media right now.
MDC Brooklyn is no stranger to housing high-profile inmates. R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried have all spent time in the facility. Each of these cases has drawn significant media attention, highlighting the conditions and challenges faced by celebrity defendants. Former inmate and founder of Wall Street Prison Consultants, Larry Levine, sheds light on what Diddy might be experiencing. Levine describes the SHU as a place of extreme loneliness and desperation, where inmates are often given psych meds to cope with the harsh conditions. Going from mansions and red carpets to a cramped cell can be incredibly disorienting and stressful. Access to such privileges.
MDC is no stranger to high-profile inmates. Previously housing R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried, who's actually there right now. Bankman-Fried was convicted of fraud and money laundering last November after the collapse of his cryptocurrency exchange, FTX. And as it happens, Bankman-Fried and Diddy are being housed in the same part of MDC, a unit for inmates that requires special protection. That's people like Diddy or Bankman-Fried who are high-profile names, but it also cares for inmates who may need protection as they assist with ongoing investigations in open cases. Since Diddy's move to this area of MDC, there are reports that he's spoken briefly to his children over the phone. Diddy has 7 children, ranging in age from 33 to 23 months old. According to reports, Diddy is concerned about how his kids are handling his arrest and detainment. And meanwhile, they're allegedly in a state of crisis after only experiencing Diddy as a loving, devoted father.
The public and media are watching Diddy's case closely. TMZ has been covering the story extensively, highlighting both the legal aspects and the human interest elements. Legal analysts agree that the evidence against Diddy is substantial, and the prosecution's all-female team is expected to put up a tough fight. Michael Babcock from TMZ points out that while Diddy's attorney claims he is in good spirits and ready to fight the charges, the reality is grim. The potential for a life sentence looms large, and even if he manages to clear his name, the process will be long and grueling.
I was also at MDC Los Angeles. It's like a cookie cutter of the MDC in New York. So yeah, I do know. But he's sitting in the shoe. He's in the hole. And this guy is going through loneliness, anxiety, desperation. He's on suicide watch, and they hand out like psych meds, like they're M&Ms to these inmates to try to get them to cope with what's going on. So his entire existence is to sit in this little cell, essentially. He can shower 3 times a week. He's not getting any real visits. If his lawyer does a legal visit, they have to come upstairs into the special housing unit to see him. Now, have you seen these reports about all these commissary items they say that he could buy? Any of those?
What was one of them? Steak or something?
Ribeye, steak,
Yeah.
I mean, all kinds of nonsense. He's in the shoe, people. He's in a special housing unit. He cannot buy things off the regular commissary list.
So this is rocking his world right
He
now.
can buy a radio.
Yeah, this is rocking his world right now.
Sean Diddy, Combs' fall from grace is a stark reminder of how dramatically life can change. From lavish parties and luxury mansions to a cell in one of the country's most notorious detention centers, Diddy's current situation is a far cry from the life he once led.
Accused sex trafficker Sean Diddy Combs spent the weekend here behind bars in solitary confinement and on suicide watch. MDC is a tough place, so rough you can hear detainees shouting even on the streets. There are constant lockdowns due to violent outbreaks, but former detainees I spoke with tell me that the experience here for Diddy will be different. Like other first-time celebrity defendants, he's reportedly under suicide watch, basically naked except for hospital paper, throwaway clothing, and rubber shower shoes. He's under 24-hour watch and kept separate from all other inmates. He has a bed with a blanket and no pillow. There are no electronic devices, but if he's lucky, he'll have the use of a radio for a short time. After being denied bail twice by 2 federal judges. He's expected to stay here until his trial, and this could limit his ability to prepare his defense. Many criminal defense attorneys say he's fighting a mountain of evidence and tough prosecution from the government's all-female team. I spoke with federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton, and he tells me when a defendant is behind bars at MDC, it's much more difficult to work on their defense, no matter who they are.
As he navigates the legal system and the harsh realities of MDC Brooklyn, his story serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of alleged criminal behavior and the unpredictable nature of fame and fortune. That's it for now. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below. For more updates, hit the bell icon.
Notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it, some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide.
During his time in a Brooklyn prison, Sean Diddy Combs couldn't stay out of trouble. Reportedly, he has been caught in numerous wild moments in prison.
Now the Sean Diddy Combs investigation. New surveillance video shows Combs being taken into custody in a Manhattan hotel last week. Our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Kotursky, is at the scene of his arrest. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning to you, Robin. This is the hotel where Sean Combs was arrested a week ago. You can now see how that arrest went down.
Diddy is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the same notorious facility where R. Kelly was previously incarcerated.
Following his arrest, Sean Diddy Combs was held without bond at a jail that has previously been described as hell on earth. After being indicted on charges of trafficking and racketeering, the hip-hop mogul was sent to the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York, the same jail that previously housed R. Kelly, who was sentenced to more than 30 years in prison for child crimes, trafficking, and racketeering, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison for her role in helping Jeffrey Epstein abuse young girls.
This federal prison, known for housing high-profile inmates like Ghislaine Maxwell, is infamous for its harsh conditions. R. Kelly was placed under suicide watch during his time there, much like Diddy, as a preventive measure due to the nature of his charges and public profile.
1994 and houses more than 1,200 people, has a reputation for poor conditions. According to the New York Times, the concrete structure has been troubled with bloody fights, food contamination, murder and suicides. An electrical fire once left inmates without heat in the middle of freezing temperatures. The Metropolitan Detention Center became the main prison in New York when its sister jail in Manhattan was closed in 2021 due to poor conditions. An attorney for Edwin Cadero, an inmate who was killed in the Brooklyn Detention Center in July from injuries sustained in a fight, called the prison a, quote, overcrowded, understaffed, and neglected federal jail that is hell on earth. Judge Robin Tarnowski denied Diddy bail in his racketeering case, ordering him to stay behind bars until his trial begins.
The MDC in Brooklyn is notorious for its hell-on-earth conditions. It has been described as harmful, filthy, and under-resourced, with incidents like maggots in the food, inmates stabbed with makeshift weapons, and chronic understaffing.
As we speak, after a judge denied his request for bail a second time, and the place where he's locked up now getting a lot of attention. The Metropolitan Detention Center, the only federal jail in New York City, is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees. And Diddy's attorneys want him out. NBC News' Yasmin Youssian has more.
Following his arrest on serious charges of racketeering and trafficking, Diddy was placed on suicide watch at the MDC. This action is often standard for high-profile inmates to ensure their safety while adjusting to prison life.
People magazine says it's got a source on the inside that tells them that P. Diddy's on suicide watch tonight. Do your sources confer the same information? Are they saying it was possible?
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on suicide watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight guest. When they told his bond hearing, now they checked him into the system. And reality has hit him. And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch. Another error that I guess some warden told you this. There are sentenced inmates there. They're called cadre inmates. They don't have to be white collar inmates, but they're doing maintenance on the building. And the problem why there's a lot of violence there, they have housing units.
Diddy is currently being held in the general housing units of MDC, where he shares space with thousands of other inmates awaiting trial.
We're outside the MDC Brooklyn. This is the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, and the side entrance where you can see there is a significant gate held by the U.S. Department of Justice Federal Bureau of Prisons. As we look up at this building, we're not sure which window is Diddy's, but this is where he is being held. And a federal judge has said this is where he's going to stay until he goes to trial. When that will be, we just don't know. His next court appearance will be September 24th. But in the meantime, behind the scenes, we know that he most likely gets a 6 a.m. wake-up call. That's from a former warden who talked to TMZ, who said that he will most likely have to mop his own floors and make his bed. Some of his movements will be restricted because he's in a special housing unit. He's not with the general population right now for obvious reasons, for his own security. This is a detention center that is notorious for violence. In fact, there was an inmate that was killed just this summer.
Reports have surfaced that Diddy has stopped eating while in prison, fearing that someone might try to poison him.
Breaking news tonight. Diddy hungry? Sean Combs apparently refusing jail food. Some say he's missing his private chef and convinced he will be poisoned. Because remember, it's all about him. Okay, it's not trafficking victims. It's about him. He actually thinks someone might poison him behind bars. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you. And I know he's in the MDC right now, but he better hide under his bed because Gloria Allred is up his tailpipe now. In the last hours, is there ever a moment that a lawyer who is used to talking for a living realizes I should just shut up? Apparently not in some cases. In the last hours, TMZ, who is creating the downfall of Diddy on Tubi, our friend Harvey Levin, who created TMZ, sits down with Sean Combs' lawyer.
You know, back when I was a kid in the late 70s, they were called threesomes.
If these are genuinely threesomes, how do you explain 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I don't know where the number 1,000 came.
The U.S. attorney said it.
I can't imagine it's thousands. I mean, you know, and I'm not really sure what the baby oil has to do with anything.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess. I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. I mean, he has a big house. He buys in bulk. You know, I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in a parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
Not 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Since his arrest, the public has been eagerly following Diddy's case, wondering how this high-profile scandal will unfold. His long-standing career and public image are now in jeopardy, with many questioning whether he will be able to mount a successful legal defense.
Listen, as I was reading through what Diddy just got arrested for, right? The parties, what was happening at the parties, 1,000 bottles of baby oil. Anyway, I was shocked because I just watched this movie, and this movie, Blink Twice, is just eerily similar to everything coming out in these Diddy reports. Sometimes I feel like art tries to tell us what's going on in real life. It's a good thing that justice is about to be served. I just hate that anytime something like this happens, the discourse, oh my goodness, like I know there's gonna be just like a cult following of people that are just like, he wasn't guilty. He was just about to buy NBC, and like, it's just gonna be this conspiracy. Like, why does this always happen? But yeah, the details of everything, my goodness, it's like been over the last, since that Cassie suit came out, there's been more and more, and it's like every single suit that comes out, or in this case, you know, what he got arrested for, it's just like more details, more details, more details. It's like, yo, there's a lot of complicit people, for sure. Like, I feel like we're still in the beginning stages of all this. Like, I think it's gonna be wild to see what happens in the next few months.
In the days following his incarceration, numerous rumors have swirled about Diddy's behavior behind bars.
In breaking news that will shock absolutely nobody, P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, has finally been arrested in the state of New York. He is facing federal charges there. He was indicted and he turned himself in today. All of this has been brewing for months, with a slew of people coming forward with allegations against him, lawsuits coming out with allegations against him. And if you remember, just last week, he did not respond to one of the lawsuits, so he got a $100 million verdict. Probably gonna need that money to pay for his lawyers now. Now, we don't have a whole lot of information just yet. Like, we don't know what the actual charges are just yet. But what we do know is that the feds executed a search warrant on his home back in March. That means that they were investigating this case for months prior to that. And then they've been presenting this to a grand jury since June. That's how much evidence is in this case. They've been presenting this to a grand jury to get the indictment since June. His lawyer says that he's been completely cooperative, and he even moved to New York last week because he knew these charges were coming and he wanted to turn himself in. But the federal system is not like the state system. You don't automatically get a bond hearing. You have to actually request a detention hearing. And at that detention hearing, it's almost kind of like a preliminary hearing. They bring in the agents and other witnesses to describe what happened for the judge and to tell why he is a danger to the community or why he is a flight risk. And in certain federal cases, like if it carries over 10 years in prison, there is a presumption that you are a flight risk, and the burden shifts to the defense to prove that you are not. It's going to be real interesting to see what these charges are that he is facing and whether he will actually get out on bond.
This attention is not uncommon for celebrities in prison, where every move is scrutinized. Given his status, Diddy is likely to face both curiosity and hostility from other inmates.
Travers is at MDC right now on Diddy's life behind bars. Lisa, what are you finding out tonight?
Well, Natasha and Steve, for the first time in his life, Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section, there is no concierge, only conmen, killers, and kingpins.
Diddy is facing the possibility of a minimum 25-year sentence if convicted on the serious charges of racketeering and trafficking.
It's bad boy for life. We all love a bad boy, don't we? Yeah? Not trafficker, we don't. This has just ruined so many good songs for me. Biggie's album has P. Diddy all throughout it, doing his little ad-libs. That was shit, but we allowed it. More Money, More Problems will never sound the same again. And the D to the A to the DD1. It's fucked. Yeah, we'll have a bit of a laugh, don't we, before we get into the miserable, disgusting crimes he's really actually committed. So yeah, I think this is like my fourth video on P. Diddy, because for whatever reason, the man cannot stop committing crimes. And he was actually very truthful when he said bad boy for life, because life is exactly what he's looking at, or at least 25 to life. Because this man, after reading the indictment on him, he is absolutely, he is going from that beautiful mansion he owns straight to a miserable, grotty little jail cell. And you know what? He's such a fucking prick. He really deserves it. So far, he's been charged with racketeering, which is basically criminal activities designed to gain profit disguised as legitimate business deals. Trafficking by fraud, force, or coercion. This is the practice of illegally transporting people for exploitation. And then also transporting people to engage in. And honestly, reading all of this, it's just like a slam.
The contrast between Diddy's former life of private jets, mansions, and designer clothes, and the grim conditions of MDC could not be starker.
To facilitate his desires, including his freak-offs. What a word that's become, honestly. And just to give you a little list of exactly what him and his employees got up to here, we've got trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of coercion and enticement to engage in narcotic offenses, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Wow. Like, you know what? You're P. Diddy. You've got all the money in the world. You don't need to do any of this. But for some people, the more powerful they get, the more dark their imagination becomes, and the more they want to push the boundaries to do the craziest up shit possible. And this is what happens when a psychopath gets this much power. Even those words coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, consenting, prostitutes who do this by trade. What a trade. Do you know what I mean? I don't remember that in my apprenticeship. But people who do this for a living anyway. It was fun for him to take people who would never ordinarily have been a prostitute into that so that they could become his toys. And by the sounds of it, P. Diddy and his employees would do whatever it took to get women into his inner circle to participate in whatever shit he was into. He would use threats, he would use intimidation, he would even use the offer of a romantic relationship, that lover boy method that Andrew Tate made famous, to get them to participate in whatever he wanted.
MDC is a place known for minimal privileges and constant threats of harm, a far cry from the world Diddy once dominated.
With more accusations against the music mogul. Talia Graves claims in a civil lawsuit that Combs and a bodyguard drugged, bound, and raped her in 2001 and filmed the incident. Graves is represented by famed litigator Gloria Allred, who is no stranger to representing women in high-profile cases, okay? Here's a list. We're speaking of Gloria Allred here, okay? Here's a list of just some of the women she's represented in the past. Look at this list right here. O.J. Simpson trial, remember that Scott Peterson trial, Tiger Woods scandal, Bill Cosby scandal, Anthony Weiner, former representative out of New York. Remember that? All of that stuff happened. That's who she's represented. Allred represented Amber Fry, the girlfriend of Scott Peterson, who was convicted of killing his wife and unborn son. And most notably, she represented more than half of the 50-plus women.
Diddy's legal team is aggressively battling the charges, trying to get him released on bail. However, with the seriousness of the allegations and the federal nature of the investigation, it seems unlikely that he will walk free anytime soon.
Who've accused Bill Cosby of rape. As for Sean P. Diddy Combs, he's pleaded not guilty to charges that he led a criminal enterprise that abused women. Look, I've already been in the mindset that the brother's in trouble. Deep trouble, as in never seeing the light of day as a free man again. It's really that serious. I don't think it's an exaggeration. That's number one. Number two, everybody's sitting up there talking about Gloria Allred right now involved in the incident because there's money to be made, okay? And the reality is that if you've got a situation where you've got tape, you've got audio, etc., against this man, it's something that could come back to haunt you. We can't ignore that reality, all right? Then you've got to take into account the fact that him being in a federal prison, him being in jail right now, being held without bond, wasn't allowed bail, even though he's got one more appeal available to him, the chances of him pulling that off are slim to none, okay? Now you've got Hollywood up in arms and incredibly nervous. Why? Because everybody's wondering whether or not their name is gonna get mentioned, and for that, my condolences kick in. And here's the reason why. You could have gone to a Diddy party, but there's a Diddy party, and there was a Diddy after party. And the after party is where these quote-unquote freak-offs were taking place. What if you never went to them? What if you just went to the party? And then you left at a reasonable hour like most people do. And you went home and went about your business and did your own thing. But while you were at the party, you took a picture. While you were at the party, you were drinking, you were hanging out, you were socializing, fraternizing, having a good time. Based on how so many people are acting, you never know what level of incrimination could come associated with you. And here's where it gets interesting. We're talking about Hollywood. So the image is what it's all about, not just the reality. If the image is of you taking pictures and partying and having a good time, and you got a drink in your hand and a cigar in your mouth, or whatever the case may be, but you did absolutely nothing wrong. Optics matter in Hollywood more so than most places. So I can understand why so many people are nervous. They ain't necessarily nervous because they're guilty. They're nervous because of the association and what it potentially implies and how it can be used to compromise their earning potential. That's the world that exists in Hollywood. And that's what makes this so unfortunate.
Given his celebrity status and the shocking nature of his charges, some are speculating that Diddy may become one of the most infamous prisoners in American history. If convicted, his story could join the ranks of other disgraced celebrities who fell from grace.
You know, racketeering implies that there are more than one person involved, though. Is there, and that is the question a lot of people are asking, is who else is involved in this?
There are other people within Diddy's operation who we could point to as playing a major role as far as security, as far as procuring things, as far as getting people into his orbit. I would imagine that many of those people are currently talking to federal law enforcement, trying to save themselves from going to prison. Others are sitting there nervous. Not everyone is talking, but surely some of them are. So, I mean, there's a lot of people lining up to tell the story, but
Sean Diddy Combs is locked up in a federal jail that has been plagued by harsh conditions and violence. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has seen multiple deaths in recent years. An inmate was stabbed to death in July, and several others have died by suicide. It's these reasons, among others, that Combs' lawyers are fighting to get him out of there. They want him released on bail, rather than being kept in jail while he awaits trial on trafficking charges. Combs is just the latest high-profile defendant to be locked up at MDC Brooklyn. Before him, there were R. Kelly, Elaine Maxwell, and crypto scammer Sam Bankman-Fried.
Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, revealed that the mogul is struggling with the reality of prison life, which contrasts with his former luxury lifestyle.
Because Puff always had a problem of listening to people that he thought that was less than him. And now he got to listen to people that got power over him but never had as much as he had. He's gonna have a big problem in the prison system. He's gonna have a real big problem in the prison system, bro. And having to listen to those COs and having to listen to everybody that got more power than him now, from a person that had all the power in the world that we thought. Now, seem like the tables is turning. If these people have it this their way, he's gonna be spending the rest of his life in the prison system. He better hope that they want to make a deal, but I don't think so, or they want somebody else. He better hope, and he got something to offer them.
Will Diddy's case set a new precedent for how high-profile trafficking cases are handled in the U.S.? That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.